Thank you. Well, welcome back to open session here for the Amery Board of Education regular meeting. And the first item that we're going to do here is to have the Pledge of Allegiance, so please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we see our lineup here. So we have a spotlight on education tonight, and it is our Amery High School Parliamentary Procedure Team.
Thank you for inviting us tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about, we have our speaking contest coming up. We just had our district speaking contest, and 6 out of the 7 contests we took first place, and so we have a wide group of kids going to sectionals for our speaking contest. And one of them is a parliamentary procedure, and so this is a great practice for us, but also highlights some of the things that we do. Parliamentary procedure is a proper way to run a meeting, and the FFA has a great contest with this. We've won this one 6 times since I've been here, so it's been a really good thing. We've even placed, we got 3rd in the nation a few years ago, and this is a very good team, and they're going to demonstrate real quick about how the contest kind of works. And these kids have put countless hours into getting to the point where they are today, and we're just really proud of them. And so we'll let you kind of see a little bit about how it works and go from there. So this is Carter Kurtzholz. He's our chairman. And then we have Ben Larson. You guys just wave when you say your name.
Yeah.
And then Myron Dodge and Emma Johnson and Timothy Justice. And we're missing Sarah Jensen tonight. And then we're also missing Hannah Justice. She's in Europe. So here we go.
Is there any further business?
Mr. Chairman,
Chair recognizes Emma.
I move for our chapter to sponsor donkey basketball.
second.
It's been moved and seconded for the chapter to sponsor donkey basketball. Is there any debate?
Mr. Chairman,
Chair recognizes Emma.
I'm in favor of this motion for several reasons. One being that this is a great opportunity for us to get our community involved with our FFA chapter, and a great event for us to put on our national chapter award application. So for these several reasons, please vote yes.
Is there any further debate?
Mr. Chairman,
Chair recognizes Marin.
I move to lay on the table the motion that our chapter sponsors a donkey basketball game.
second.
It's been moved and seconded for the chapter to lay on the table the motion for our chapter to have a donkey basketball game. All those in favor of laying this motion on the table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
No.
Motion fails. We will not be laying this motion on the table. Is there any further debate on the main motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Chair recognizes Benjamin.
I move that we postpone to our next regularly scheduled meeting the motion that for our chapter to sponsor donkey basketball.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to postpone to our next regularly scheduled meeting the motion for our chapter to sponsor donkey basketball. Is there any debate?
Mr. Chairman,
Chair recognizes Benjamin.
I'm strongly in favor of this motion, not only because our chapter needs time to find the funds for this motion, but also because we also need time to find the donkeys for this motion. So please vote yes on this postponement.
Is there any further debate? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of postponing to our next regularly scheduled meeting the motion for our chapter to sponsor donkey basketball, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
No.
Motion fails. We will not be postponing this motion to our next regularly scheduled meeting. Is there any further debate on the main motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Chair recognizes Emma.
I rise to a parliamentary inquiry.
Parliamentary inquiry has been called. What is your inquiry?
What is the difference between lay on the table and postpone to a certain time?
Lay on the table is to, delay a motion until you need, to do it if you have something important coming up, such as a guest speaker. And postpone to a certain time is if you need to send it to another meeting where the agenda is more comparable with that motion. Lay on the table sends motions off the agenda, while postpone to a certain time keeps the motions on the agenda. Is there there any further debate on this main motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes Timmy.
I move to amend the motion so that the motion reads for the chapter to sponsor donkey basketball on September 20th.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to amend the main motion by adding the words on September 20th, so that if passed, the motion will read for the chapter to sponsor donkey basketball on September 20th. Is there any debate?
Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes Timmy.
I am in favor of this motion, given that currently our financial standings do not make it so that we can support this, and we will have multiple fundraisers in between them to properly gauge our financial standings for this motion. My second reason being that our current gymnasium is going to get re-floored over the next few months, so we will not be able to host it until a later date. So please vote yes on this amendment.
Is there any further debate? Seeing none, proceed to vote. All those in favor of amending the main motion by adding the words on September 20th, so that if passed, the motion will read for the chapter to sponsor donkey basketball on September 20th, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
No.
Motion passes. We will be amending the main motion by adding the words on September 20th. Is there any further debate on the main motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes Maren.
I encourage you to vote in the positive for this motion for several reasons. Some of them include that this motion, which our alumni agreed to support, would show the community the positive impact we have within our chapter. It would also impact our chapter through positive bonding experiences. I also talked to secretaries within our section, and they said that this motion worked out really well for them. So for these several reasons, please vote yes on this motion.
Is there any further debate? Seeing none, proceed to vote. All those in favor for the chapter to sponsor donkey basketball on September 20th, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion passes. We will be sponsoring donkey basketball on September 20th. Is there any further business? Seeing none, this meeting stands adjourned.
Well done.
We got some work to do.
We just run things different.
No.
I do have a question though, because years ago, the state parliamentary procedure was different than the national. Is that still the way it is?
It is not anymore. Now,
Okay.
Wisconsin just changed so that it's the same as the national way.
Because I know when my kids were in it, it was like, oh, now we got to switch our brains to go to nationals and do it different. So,
It's the same now. So
cool,
a
good,
lot more helpful.
good.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck, yeah. Next will be our consent agenda items.
I had the consent agenda items for this month, and everything was in order, although I did have discussion about a refund for a fraudulent charge, and had a very interesting, enlightening experience about how often our credit cards are used fraudulently. And so, obviously, our financial office looks over those credit card statements and thoroughly checks them and makes sure that all the charges are authorized. But it was very interesting to learn that they are used fraudulently very often, and they have to, submit the form and say that this was not an authorized charge, and it's crazy. She was saying that one card was even used even though it had been used fraudulently, even though it had never been used before. Like, how do they get those numbers? It had never even been used, but.
Well, if you've never had it happen to you, you should consider yourself.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Wow. So.
Is there a second?
I'd second.
Char? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no? There we go. We do not have any community comments, so we will go on to our administrative committee reports.
Welcome back, Tom Benson, you're up.
Thank you.
What a way to start it off.
You can make fun of Josh, he's not here.
Yeah.
We'll let him be. We'll let him be. Well, at the middle school, we just ended second trimester about a week ago, and we're heading into the final third of the year, and it's gone pretty quickly. It's amazing. We had a quiz bowl competition that sixth grade runs every year that just finished. It wasn't done when I submitted this report, but I want to congratulate Ian Bursick, Xavier Kamonic, Camille Kostanek, and Ellie Amons, who were the champions this year. So, and they take that pretty serious. That was pretty cool. And Haley De Leon, our family consumer ed teacher, coordinated that, so I want to thank her. We are starting up getting prepared for our Ford exam state testing. Information went out to parents about that recently, and will come out from the other buildings next week. When we start with that, there's probably about a month of pre-work that needs to be done. There's some required practice tests that the kids have to go through, some sampler items. They want the kids to make sure that they're familiar with all the tools. They call it an online tools training, so they're familiar with how to manipulate the computer to do the things that it's asking them to do. It's not just a yes or no test. So when they take that, they may be moving blocks and stacking things. They might be graphing things on charts and manipulating things off the computer. So they need to go through the process and the training on that each year. And that will start next week at the middle school, along with those strategies that they have to learn. We just finished our 7th grade civics field trip today, and Matt Pedersen and the 7th grade team did a really nice job coordinating that. And I know that they spent time up at the courthouse, and they actually get to see a hearing. They, in the past, have used to go into actually into the jails, but they weren't allowing that, I believe. Do you know if I don't think they did again this year, no. And then, in addition, they come through and they spend some time also looking at our local government and taking a look not only at, our city hall, but the police station, and meeting with the different ways that things are working here municipally with the government, and getting to take a look at how those courts work, and not just county, but local. So that was pretty cool. And then they also go up to the Polk County Museum up there at the old courthouse. If you haven't been there, it's really neat. I really liked it. We have a PBL committee meeting coming up on Wednesday, and that's going to be making sure that we're ready to go with our project-based learning and the Genius Hour program, and making sure that our kids are prepared for that as we will get ready for our Genius Hour Expo, our community expo in May. We have a 7th and 8th grade that will be taking a field trip to the Ordway to see My Fair Lady. That's always kind of fun for them. A lot of the kids have never been to something like that, so they get to go into the theater in the cities and see that. Our middle school dance got postponed to the 23rd, and we had it. It was one of the many snow days we've had. So I was glad because I was out, and now I'm able to come back and keep an eye on the dance, make sure that the D'Ambrosio kid's not in trouble.
I'll admit it, you just want to shake it out there with the kids. You have some time to heal.
We have a large group music festival coming up. We have a Warrior Way celebration in March, at the end of March. The state DI competition's in Green Bay on April 1st, and then our actual Ford test will start on April 4th. So lots of things going on. Any questions?
Do we have some DI teams that have qualified for state?
We do have one team up at the high school that qualified to go to the state competition, so that's exciting.
Glad to see you back. Last
Yes.
month wasn't the same without you.
Thank you. And I want to just mention, not to go into the accident and everything, but I want to just commend the first responders, police officers, firefighters, EMTs. Absolute amazing and professional to deal with what they did, and as quickly as they did. And I was very impressed with them, and I think we need to make sure that we continue to thank them for all the work they do. Sorry.
Yeah.
Good evening. The IPO here offered a family fun bingo night on February 28th, and it was very well attended. They were able to play bingo, they enjoyed ice cream sundaes, won some great gifts, and so I want to thank our IPO for offering these wonderful opportunities to our families. The turnout is always very well attended, and there's always a lot of excitement right before it. And I also want to thank the IPO. With the funds that they raise every year, they are donating a set dollar amount to every student to be able to go on a field trip. So they're sponsoring a portion of the field trips. We have a lot of field trips that come up in the spring, so all those funds will go to very good use to help our kids get to exciting and educational opportunities. We had our second annual Love Your Library event on February 21st, right before a big snowstorm. That was also very well attended. Last year was our first year, this is our second year, and so we kind of just built upon what happened last year. There was a timed challenge in the makerspace room right here next door, so families came and developed different, looked like a luge essentially, bobsledders, and they were getting timed on that. There was a book challenge activity within the library. So the challenge was that you had to find a book that started with your first name. You had to find a book that had the spine of your favorite color. So just some different activities to finding new books within our library. And then it ended in the library. Mrs. Brayton gave some wonderful book talks, so highlighting some really popular books or authors in our library. And then there was a drawing, and we were able to get several series of books in kids' hands that attended, so that was wonderful. The high school agriculture horticulture class welcomed over our third graders last week. So our third graders went over and planted plants with that class, and the high schoolers will take hopefully good care of them until May. And then there's a special event in May that those will go home with kids and they will give them to someone that they love. And if you recall, this is actually our first year as being a school-wide Title I program versus a targeted Title I program. So the elementary and intermediate school title teachers are continuing their work with that. In-service day this Thursday, they're going to be spending a portion of that day, and actually even this Wednesday, working on our plan for next year. So we update our plan as we go. We have to have certain community members on it, parents, different representatives, and so we're just working on updating that Title I plan. We have a lot of upcoming activities. As you can see, we have report cards going home. On Wednesday, as Tom mentioned, some forward information going home to our parents will go home on Wednesday in the family folders as well. We have no school. A few days in March, we have the Academic Fair and Art Show, March 23rd. We have public library visits, so each student will get the opportunity to visit our public library. They're going to get some tours, have some book talks, be able to have a craft, and then they're able to check out books if they want. Something that I don't think a lot of people know is that if you were to check out a book at the public library, you can return those to our schools here, and our librarians are able to route those back to the public library, which is wonderful. With our library visits, some kids will say, well, I might not be able to get it back, but kids can turn in their public library books here, and then we're able to route them back. We have the forward testing, April 4th through 14th, no school, April 7th and 10th, and then we have an upcoming fourth grade concert on April 13th as well.
Hello. So elementary school, we did our annual ocean dive on March 6th. The students were excited coming into the school doors in their swimming gear and their flip-flops and their snorkels, and there was a lot of fun to be had by all in that, and they were really excited to share about all of the animals that they had researched. So that was a very fun night. Going along with Tom's dance, we had our second grade concert get canceled numerous times due to the snow days, but they were able to, on March 7th, finally pull off their Aloha concert, and they just did a fantastic job again. So kudos to our music department, Mrs. Henningsgaard, for putting together that fantastic concert. Our kindergartners went on the road to Shell Lake and watched a musical called Dragons Love Tacos. So they did some reading activities prior to that with the book, Dragons Love Tacos. So they had a great time with that field trip. So that was really fun for them to be able to do. March 3rd ended our trimester. Teachers are finalizing their report card information to be going home this week. And just to touch on our parent-teacher conferences that we held in February, we had 92% of our lean families involved in either phone or in-person attendance, so that was very great to see everybody involved with that to celebrate their students and all their hard work. Our community connections this month were with the Amery Women's Club. They came and visited Lean Elementary second graders on March 2nd. Read a story about Bat Loves Night and did an activity with our second graders. It went over very well. The students really enjoyed their time with them, so we just appreciate all their hard work in connecting with our school building. Our in-service on the 16th, we're going to do a lot of team grade level work and work in our guest speaker, Mary Schieffer, who has been in our building a few different times, working with her expertise on trauma-sensitive schools. So we'll welcome her back for a bit to speak with us in service. And then our referendum, I've been sharing the video that's also out on the website, the school website, that just kind of shows a nice little walkthrough video about what the referendum is going to look like as it gets going. So the excitement is being built over at the elementary school and what is newly to come for us. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for all their hard work and support that goes into these projects. It's just really great to have that to support our students and our staff. Upcoming events, we have our PBIS celebration as well. The students are going to do a whole bunch of outside snow activities, so that's the great thing about it snowing all weekend, is they have lots of fresh snow to do that in. Round that off with a cup of hot cocoa at the end. We have our in-service, no school days, and then our Lean Elementary Art Show is going to be on March 23rd at 5:30. And then our lower elementary Montessori PBL project-based learning class, they'll have their concert at 6:30 at the high school auditorium on March 30th. And then round that up with 7th and 10th, no school again. So, thank you.
Good evening. Just a few updates. As you know, in the past, and no secret this year, we're holding PK through 12 special education meetings, which are a larger collaborative of all our building teams getting together after school, and really just the purpose of which is to share information, to collaborate on things, build consensus around changes that we want to consider or implement. And so, we were snowed out a couple of those days, so it had been a couple months since we had one of these, so it was good to see everybody, and just, I think those are positive meetings, not just to do those kind of business tasks that I talked about, but to really allow staff to talk to one another. Oftentimes the challenges that special ed teachers and case managers are facing are tough, and it's hard work. So we talk about that and we share it, and it was a nice experience to just have that meeting again, and it felt like a long time after being snowed out a couple months. So a couple of those things that we did, it was really nice to announce the fact that as paperwork comes through and IEP meetings are held, we have removed now our official COVID-19 virtual service language, so that feels really good to get beyond that and turn that page. And then also just really trying to become not paperless, but paper light, and that's by allowing parents to elect to just have their IEPs and paperwork emailed with their verbal consent, and then we document that in the IEP determination and placement page. So at some point in the future, maybe it'll be a quick little button you push and make it a little even easier than that. But right now, hopefully that'll save us on a little bit of unmailing and allow us to save a few trees in the process. As far as training goes, there are some nice early childhood trainings upcoming. CISA 1 is presenting a series of 3 trainings focusing on just early childhood education, especially those ages 3 through 5. Strategies, resources around appropriate developmental instructional practices, and so we're hoping to get some select staff there, certainly our early childhood folks, and we've got a professional development hour application that I'm going to submit to our admin team tomorrow, so we'll see if we can get folks some credit in the form of professional development hours for attending that learning mini-series. And then finally, dynamic learning maps, it's assessment season. Just today, as Tom and Jess mentioned, there's a lot of accommodations that go into the testing engine. Just today, we were troubleshooting the difference between listening scripts, human read aloud, and text-to-speech, for example, and whether those accommodations are embedded or not embedded, and whether they need special requirement from DPI in order to implement some of those. So while it can seem pretty straightforward that we're just pushing buttons into the machine and assigning them to students, there really are underneath that some pretty deep conversations in terms of making sure that we're providing the allowable accommodation to the students so that we can get the most accurate representation of what they know when they take the test. So that's all I have for this evening.
Good. Was there anything from Josh? Was there any slide or anything?
Nope.
Okay.
I do, yeah,
Oh.
actually, some slides.
Maybe we should just put that up there so that, people at home, if they're looking at that, they can just see what,
Wyatt and Coy will be here next month to be recognized. We did the ACT on the 7th, and we're moving into full-on high school season of events. March, April, May is a whirlwind on events. And with the,
snow shoveling.
And we started spring sports.
doesn't it seem like it? I mean, seriously.
Oh, well, good,
Maybe it'll be just May,
yeah.
maybe.
All right. All right, Ryan, you're up with the transportation report.
Hi.
Right.
So I'll start with just some of the numbers. A bit different this year. I wanted to show the change. In the 2021 year, there was a lot less ridership with COVID and less days actually in school. And then you see the difference in 21 to 22. The more miles, the more fuel we used. The cost of repairs is partially that and just the uptick in parts cost. And I'm noticing that this next year is going to be way more. Just some parts are 3 times as much. I'm trying to find some cheaper things on one end, but then there's certain things you have to get through the dealer and you're stuck paying their prices. We did notice that the cost of repairs on vans was down. We got rid of those 2 old vans and we have 2 brand new ones that helped a ton. And then we did finally get the bus that we ordered in 21 in May of 22, so John got to drive that for about 3 days of the school year before summer. And then we did order the one in June of 22 and it went into production today. So they say about 10 days and Wisconsin Bus will have it. They'll do their upfit with the camera systems and stuff. And then we'll get it. So we're open early April. So a little
10
better.
days.
A little better.
10 days.
10 days.
10 days to build the bus and
Wow.
then they do their part, yep.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds
And-
good. Sounds safe.
Sounds like a stretch to me.
Yeah, it does to me too.
And then he said he's noticing a lot better quality in the builds now. Last year, our bus has had a ton of warranty work done on it, just little things missed, not tight things falling off, just like we couldn't figure
Well,
out.
as long as it isn't the steering
A slight
wheel
air
like
leak, we
Kia.
couldn't figure it out. They literally didn't plug hoses in underneath to the dryer,
Yeah.
just pouring air out. So we're hoping to get a better quality bus, this one that's coming. And then I wanted to add in the bus purchase in this meeting and try to do it earlier this year because they are only having so many of the flat nose buses. And we can't fit anything but those in our garage. And if we have the longer nose, we can't double stack them in other garages, we can't park them all inside. So we're kind of stuck with the flat nose, which gives us better visibility anyway, and most of my drivers prefer that.
So you pursued other bids, but you only received one.
Correct. Thomas usually gives us a bid. He just said, we can't bid this year, we don't have the availability, and we're gonna choose to not bid. I looked into international, but the problem with international, the only thing we can get in flat nose is a rear engine, but you're talking a lot more money for a rear engine bus. So, I mean, we'll probably put that in the 160 range.
So that 142, how does that compare to the previous 2 years of bus order? A
Last year was
ballpark.
137-ish, and the year before was 107.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a less of a jump than last year, but still a pretty significant jump. But he's
So if you
confident
did
that
want to
we-
take up this action, you would need to treat this as an action item, but I'll let you continue on and then we can
So
circle
what I'm
back.
hoping to do is I'm trying to get this action item through now so I can get it ordered so we can get this year's, otherwise it'll push us to the next model year. And then we're looking at a year and a half, 2 years before we get that bus. And we have some pretty old buses, so we can't keep pushing these ones out.
When do we get out? No, by?
He said this month would be the best.
Do we have the money?
We budget a new bus every year. We didn't know the number until last week. It's close enough to what we had budgeted to be able to do that. I mean, you can always skip purchasing buses, but then you're really gonna get stuck with having to get 5 of them. And then it just becomes unsustainable financially.
Yeah.
So my recommendation would be to approve it if that's what you choose to do. It's certainly up to you.
Yeah, right now we have a bus that is just waiting to see if we get another DNR grant. We did get that one last year, and it was, I think, around the $27,000 we got back. And usually we only get $1,500 to $3,000 for a used bus, so that was pretty neat. So we're hoping to get that again on this one, which will help offset that.
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we approve the bus purchase.
We can do that right now if you want.
Yep, sure.
And
I'll second it.
Aaron and Joe, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay. That was too easy, Ryan. I wanted to make you work for this
I
a
was
little bit
gonna too.
more.
I wanted to wait till the end of this.
Yeah, I saw a lot on the agenda in between there. I'm like, well, I'm gonna be here a long time.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you for moving that up.
yeah.
This started last year in February, the entry-level driving training, and we started doing in-house and to try to save the district a lot of money. And we did it, we were able to get 2 drivers through it, and it worked pretty good. Had a couple snags where they had to send it back and forth with the DOT, like, hey, you missed this, you missed that. And it's a learning process for everybody, and once you get everything right, then they're allowed to take the road test, and it worked pretty good. But it's just one more step to get already hard system to get drivers and.
So you're the administrator of this program then?
Correct.
Yep,
Yep.
okay. Taking on a little
Thank
more.
Josh Bump for helping train everybody, and
Okay.
does a really good job with that.
Yeah.
I did get the transponder implemented. It's very helpful for seeing the routes and who's on each stop, and turn by turn and on a map. So if you're trying to figure, like, someone will call me and say, hey, this happened at this stop, and I don't know who the kids are. I can look on the map, and it'll be a dot, and it'll tell me which kids get on there. So it's helped a lot, and the technology end of it. Knock on wood, we haven't had to try the route absorption yet. But that would allow it, if we were short a driver, we could absorb it to other routes. But I don't know if we have the capacity. Our buses are, the ridership's way up. I mean, this is the first year where I had to actually change some routes to make it fit, because there's too many kids on one bus and not enough on another, so. And there's just some of the other options, the same with TransFinder, that I'm looking into moving on to, but they get kind of spendy because they add a lot of technology to the buses. And one thing nice, and I noticed, like if a bus is behind or something, it's very hard to get a message out to the parents, so just the one bus, or it's kind of a blanket right now. We have to just message everybody. And this would give you the option, like the Stop Finder would be able to, you could opt into as a parent, and you could have it tell you like, hey, it's at the stop before. Or then we could send a message out, it's 20 minutes behind, stuff like that. So it's kind of a good option. The Wayfinder is added into it, so it'd be really good for sub-drivers, or if you had to jump onto a different route, or if you had to use that route absorption. These two would be very helpful, because then the app could notify the parents of the different stop times, because if you absorb routes, it's just gonna throw the whole route off. But it's just something I would like to kind of keep looking into, and
Well, if
maybe
you
a few
want
years get
us to
there.
look into it, Ryan can certainly bring back the literature and the price points, and certainly on both. I have received an inquiry from parents. It would be really nice to be able to go to one app and see where my kid's bus is, because I gotta leave at a specific time, which I get, yeah, absolutely. So if you want us to, we can.
Yeah, it just gets to be, per bus, we need a tablet, and then you need to have internet access. But in a way, it'll give us other options too, because our camera systems actually, if we had internet, I could link the camera systems to it. So if we needed to pull something from a bus that isn't even there, I could do that. There's a lot of options with the technology. We don't have a lot of it on our buses. They're pretty.
I don't
pretty
think there's
basic.
any harm in exploring it and having the information to decide, so.
We'll put some stuff together and bring it, go ahead.
Is this something you're looking to add for next year, or considering adding for next
Yeah,
year?
I'm considering it. That I got the TransFinder down, that was quite the process to learn it. There's a lot of, Amery area takes the county map and they put it in their system, and not everything lines up quite right. So it was literally making buses go around like twice. And it's like, no, you can go this way. And so we had to completely reconfigure it to fix things.
Osceola uses it, and both of us have contacts over there. We could ask
Yeah.
them how they like it.
Actually, before I started with TransFinder, that's Steve Leslie over at Osceola. I talked to him a lot about it, and he's used it many years before I have, and really likes it. And the cost-wise of the Stop Finder and the Wayfinder is, he's looking at getting the same thing, but it's just trying to get it all budgeted. Because it's just a big step. It's not just adding the service is not that bad. It's like another $1,000 a year, but then you're adding tablets and subscriptions to internet for each bus, and GPS tracking and stuff like that. But
We'll
it's something
gather
I've
it.
been looking
We'll
into.
gather it and bring it back.
Yep. Yep.
Just kind of an update on drivers, a lot of them that have been around, and kind of shows like we have a lot of drivers like that do multiple things here. Like Travis, he is a para and he started driving van for us to help out. Andrew, he went through part of the new entry-level driver train. He already had a CDL, but I ran him through the same system for a new entry driver and to learn our stuff. And it seemed to work pretty good to give him a lot of information that he didn't even realize. And Fadia was new too. She's also a para and does our handicap van in the afternoon and has been a great addition to help us out. That's it for that page. Sheila and Darcy have been around for quite a while, so. And then I also want to thank just all my substitute drivers. You know, we don't have any of the pictures on them, but they really help out. You know, Liz Bowman was a route driver before, and she took a different position. I was pretty upset, and it kind of stunk. But she's been able to sub a lot more than she even expected. The camps let her kind of flex some stuff to work it out. Same with Noah. Noah took a different job, and still been able to help out a little bit too, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Any other questions for me?
And the ridership pay funding that we get, that's just if a student rides the bus once in a year?
Correct. Yep.
So then it's, I remember, $1,300 or something like that?
You have to ask, I think Becky was the one that,
Yeah.
we do
I
that
don't remember,
together,
but
I
it
don't really
seemed-
know
that
the
seems-
details on it.
People amount that we
Well,
get, and I guess off the
yep,
top of my head, I don't
yep.
recall what
So-
is it changes each year, but yeah.
Send it out if you can, put your student on the bus for one time at least, so we can get that funding, please.
Yeah, Becky and I, twice a year, we go through, we give the drivers, and they check the names off if they're ridden or not, and then they add anybody else who wasn't on the list, and it's helpful. And I know it's altogether, it's up.
Yeah.
But we do have a lot of parents in the drop-off line still. There's a lot of kids getting
Yep.
rides to school.
Yeah. Yep, all right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ryan.
Have a great night.
You too.
Thanks to our
And
transportation
you can't
staff.
leave.
Yeah.
Well,
Go stay.
All right. Next, we'll go to our information items, referendum update.
okay. I met with Gary Zifko from Carlos Anderson today. We're on the cusp of it. We'll be starting our actual physical work here coming in May. Though I didn't know this, he shared with me today at the high school, they're opening up the ceilings, as in pulling the tiles down. And you literally from the ground, standing right underneath it, you put a device up in the ceiling and it tells you exactly what your space dimensions are, up, down, left, right, north, south, east, west. You know exactly what the entire building looks like before you actually take anything out. And you know exactly what to bring with you to go ahead and put it in. He said it's almost like painting a room. It takes a lot longer to tape it off than it does to paint it. And that's all the upfront work they're doing right now. We continue to be at or under budget. We are at budget at the elementary. We are under budget at the high school, which is exactly where we want to be. We have signed the documents on the guaranteed maximum price, so we can't be over budget based on those documents under contract in the eyes of the law. So we are very close. You'll start seeing a presence once the snow breaks. They'll be camped behind the high school, between the high school and the intermediate school. That's where their setup will be, and they'll be working largely intermediate, or largely elementary and high school, but there is some stuff that's getting done at the intermediate and middle as well. So, questions that you may have for me? It's a very exciting time, I can tell you that much. We meet again this Friday. We meet all the time in regards to let's make sure the list is complete, make sure the prices are right, make sure we're not forgetting anything. George has been invaluable. No one knows these buildings like George. It's been sort of impressive, to be quite honest with you, that George knows it that intimately. He's been up in the ceilings, that is for sure.
Yep.
Is there an ability to see the price that we had hoped for and then the bid price that we actually received?
Yep. George, I should actually have documents sitting on my desk for the stuff that we've already done. For the bids, I don't have that document, but Cross Anderson has all of that. What we were hoping for and what they came in at, you could actually see how many bids they were, who they were, how much everyone came in at, and what one was selected. Because remember, we contract that work out to Cross Anderson. They're not obligated to select the lowest bid, but typically they do. The problem for them is they have to play scorecard first to make sure everyone's bidding out similar work, because someone might be significantly less, but they're not actually bidding out the job. But that information is available, and I would happily put that together and bring it here so you can see exactly where we came out ahead. There's some stuff out there, but the big tickets are in, so we are going to be under budget based on what we have, the work we've done. But I would be happy to put that together.
I think last month they were here and they were
Yes.
just working on vetting contractors, correct?
Yep.
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 So it's nice to see the amount of bids that we got.
The next 12 to 18 months, it'll certainly be a distraction and certainly be an inconvenience at times, but at the end of the rainbow, I think it's going to be pretty awesome.
Yep. Okay, any other questions? Okay, we'll go on to our school board election.
You're doing good so far.
It won't sync up, so you guys, oh, here. it's gonna-
There we go. We had a primary for our school board election held on February 21st. We had 3 candidates for 1 position, and by law, if you have more than double the field, which 3 is more than 2, you have to have a primary. The primary was held. We had 3 candidates, the 2 moving to the next round, which is the regular election on April 4th. Are Steve Osterl and Del Stone, and you'll see the numbers there, and if you don't have them committed to memory, they're still hanging out on the Polk County and the St. County website, and also on our website, so you can check them out there. I've broken down my municipality. Sometimes people, I get inquiries every now and then, the numbers are wrong, it's not right. That's because they're usually just looking at Polk County. Remember, 2 of our municipalities are in St. Croix County, and that won't get reported on Polk County side, obviously. So that's what the results look like, and then I believe you're probably fishing for the next side, that April 4th, we're from 3 to 2, we're down to 2 for 1, and that's the actual snippet from the ballot in the order that it appears on the ballot. So that's school board election stuff.
Okay. With that, we'll go on to our foreign exchange program.
We had conversation at last meeting, and we had some community comments to this point as well. A foreign exchange program, the participation of foreign exchange students in a graduation proceeding here at Amery High School. The black, obviously, is the existing policy, 353 for foreign exchange programs. The red is what I have added. This is but a draft and but a proposal. And that addition says foreign exchange students are allowed to participate in graduation proceedings if they are a member of the senior class. Foreign exchange students will not receive an Amery High School diploma, and I think we could gather from this process, most of them aren't in pursuit of a diploma, because most of them have diplomas from their home country. So that's not really the essence of what they're pursuing. This is, again, but a suggestion, and I turn it over to you.
By listing only a foreign exchange student, are we going to be discriminating against any other students?
Well, other groups who do not participate in graduation will be those who haven't met the academic criteria, that have been a student here perhaps since 4K, and they haven't gotten to the finish line for whatever that reason happens to be, and they wouldn't be participating. HSED students, of which we don't have any this year, we have not had many recently, they also don't participate in graduation ceremony. So those are the only 2 groups that I'm aware of. Maybe there are others that you're thinking of, you can certainly ask.
Homeschooled?
Homeschool don't participate in our graduation ceremony either, no.
Okay.
They are enrolled in the state as separate from the school district, but we don't count them as our students.
Yeah.
So that would, to me, it would be illogical for a homeschool student who resides in Amery to participate in Amery graduation if they're not even our kid. So they don't know.
Okay. Well,
The question, I guess, is how this fits into those that aren't earning a diploma participating in the graduation ceremony. How do these 2, since they're not earning a diploma, why are they being allowed to participate in this ceremony?
Are you asking me, or are you?
I mean, I guess in general, that's a question that I have. So if they're not earning a diploma, because that's what, I guess, to me, that's what the graduation ceremony is for the kids earning a diploma. Also, this coincides with the conversations that we had back a few years ago, when we amended that policy. So how does this
I can
coincide with that
speak
policy?
to, I'm not a member of the high school pupil services team. Brad is, and he can perhaps help. In my conversations with them, and specifically with Josh Gould, the high school principal, I believe his answer to that inquiry would be those who are listed on the program are those who are walking across the stage and getting a diploma. That's why they're listed on the program. Is that an accurate rendition of what they would say, Brad, since you've sat and been part of those conversations in recent years?
Yeah, that's really the thrust, that you are on that program and your name is there because you've met the requirements for graduation.
But yet our foreign exchange students don't meet that criteria.
That is accurate.
Yep.
Though there would be an argument that some would make they've never had that opportunity to retain those credits because they haven't been here. But then the counter to that argument would be, therefore they shouldn't participate. I mean, that whole conversation, that whole debate I've been a part of, listening to that debate.
And they also don't earn a diploma because it's against the state rules, is that correct?
Well, you have to meet X, Y, and Z in order to get a high school diploma, and they wouldn't meet the X, Y, Z. They couldn't possibly do that in 1 year's worth of study here. That's a product of 4 years. So no, they wouldn't, and no, they wouldn't get a diploma, though no one's ever made that request of me in my time here as a district administrator or as a principal. I've never had that request.
And are foreign exchange students recognized in other venues rather than just graduation?
During senior year, they're recognized at senior awards night, presented with an American flag and a certificate for having attended school. They're recognized at that event, at least in my time and in recent years. Prior to my time, I don't know if they have been, but I know that they have been in the last 17 years.
Well, lots of things. We could certainly look at the graduation policy, and maybe that should be cross-referenced in this policy. But, maybe it comes down to what is the point of the graduation ceremony, is part of that, I think, is a celebration of the senior class and of these students that are moving on after they have been here, and they are leaving this school. And I've talked to some other districts, and other districts maybe view that ceremony as more of a celebration of the senior class than just focusing on earning the diploma, which of course, is what we want our students to do. We want them to earn a diploma. We want them to have that. But I spoke with a principal at Osceola High School, and he said, they really work hard to make sure that everyone can participate in graduation, even if they're credits short or have some other issues that have caused them to, be credits short or to not meet those requirements. So I feel like that's maybe a discussion about all of our graduation policy, which basically just states that, the graduation policy is that they've met these requirements and they had these credits. Because I think, again, part of the foreign exchange students being able to participate is that they've been welcomed into the high school. They've been told they're a senior. They've been asked to do, asked to participate as a senior and do these activities with a senior. But then they're told that, they have been told in the past that they're not allowed to participate in graduation, which is kind of the culmination of being a senior, that's kind of the aim of the end of the year. And that, I think is very discouraging for them, and I think that's discouraging for even a lot of their teachers and the rest of the senior class and the student body as a whole. And not just discouraging, but really kind of just rude, and most of the school districts around us allow foreign exchange students to participate in graduation. It could certainly be noted on the program that they're foreign exchange students and they are not receiving an Amery High School diploma. That would not be difficult to do. But I know that this was very important to the foreign exchange student that we have staying with us this year, and this is something that she really felt strongly about and has been advocating for. And
Does she graduate at home then?
she has already graduated, but the other two
So she already
seniors.
has graduated.
She's already
And
finished
goes-
school. They don't have a graduation ceremony where she came from. I don't know about you worldwide, but I know for her, there's no graduation ceremony. They're taking their big exams that I don't remember the name of now, but they take a lot of exams at the end of their last year, and then you go to school and you look at your scores, and then you're done, and that's it. So the other two seniors who are foreign exchange students this year, they both have a year left of school when they return to Italy. They have more like 5 years of high school, so they still have a year left.
Are they listed as seniors?
Yes.
So they would be in the graduation ceremony also? So there'd be 3 of them this year?
Now, a point of clarity in regards to how they're listed grade-wise, if you do not have a WSN number, Wisconsin Student Number, you don't exist according to the Department of Public Instruction. So a student that comes from France or Italy or Germany or wherever they come from, they obviously don't have a WSN number. They could be 18 and you could list them whatever grade you wanted to list them as, freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, because they're new to Wisconsin entirely. Same is true for a kid that comes from Minnesota. You could list them however you want, though typically we list them chronologically where they're at in their course of study from Minnesota. But for a foreign exchange kid, we've had students as young as 16. We've listed them chronologically as sophomores or juniors. So we can place them wherever we choose to place them. That's just for a point of clarity.
So, I mean, if we just, instead of amending the policy of a senior, for them to actually be included in the program, we could just amend this completely, that we just wouldn't have one as a senior.
We wouldn't have one.
A foreign exchange student
We
as a
wouldn't
senior?
code them again as a senior.
If you didn't code them as a senior by this language, they wouldn't participate. But again, this is just draft language. It's about a proposal. You can write whatever you want here, or nothing. But yes, you can code them however you want to code them.
Right, from talking to Josh Gould, part of the reason that he tends to code them as seniors and not juniors is because of the ACT test, and he didn't want to make them take the ACT test.
Though we're starting to rethink some of that, because some of these kids do very, very well.
They're very
So-
intelligent kids.
Which, well, that's
Right.
great.
Sean, where did you get this from?
That's my own, right from my own head, that red stuff right there.
Okay, how many other people in district, or in the CISA 11 district that we're in, allow this to occur?
Of all of the CISA schools, my ballpark is probably upwards of 75–85% allow foreign exchange students to participate in graduation ceremony in one way, shape, or form.
Okay.
I can't say that with certainty, but that would be my guess. It's a non-starter for many districts. For us, it really lies in the lifelines training that we went through in regards to deceased students and memorialization and so forth. And many see that as apples and oranges. The way we've interpreted that literature, it's very much the substance of why we decided to not have them participate.
And when was that instituted?
Oh
'Cause
boy,
foreign exchange
when's
students
Lifelines?
did-
Tom, help me out.
Foreign exchange students did participate in AMU
That's got it.
graduation years ago.
That's true.
But we just changed the policy when we talked about memorializations of students since I've been on the board. So I believe that was in 2000.
I remember it, we went over, it was over at, right across Hazelton.
Hazelton.
And then we ended up in St. Croix, that's gotta be 8–10 years ago.
I think,
But what you said, Aaron, is correct. Debbie Holmes,
Before that.
foreign exchange instructor, sent you an email to that effect.
That
Yes,
they used to
absolutely, yes,
participate in
true.
graduation.
That's a true statement.
I remember having these conversations when we talked about memorialization and graduation policy a few years ago. It was fresh when I was on the board, and I guess it was a very hard conversation for me to have at the time, because I've lived in this community for 30 years now. And our kids have went to school with some of these kids who have passed away from various reasons, and were not allowed to be memorialized in our graduation ceremony, some of who were seniors at the time. And we've had to go through that with these people. And I've heard from some of those people since this has come up, that they also feel that we've talked about it, it's been brought up, and now it's being brought up again, and they feel re-traumatized, that like they're walking through this all over again. And for foreign exchange students that haven't been here their whole life, or haven't been here and through the senior class, so I think there's a lot of hurt feelings still in the community from a lot of those discussions that we've had, and choices that we've made, policies that we've implemented, and then to have this all brought back up again just because foreign exchange students not allowed to participate in graduation has been difficult.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's something that we talk more about also. I mean, I would be willing to look at that again and to talk about it that again. We have, a student that this year who, passed away in a car accident last year as a junior. And, we have this policy of not allowing them to be memorialized, but yet we are allowing something to happen at graduation. And is that really the best way to let them be recognized?
Well, having supervised 13 of the last 17 years worth of graduations, it's typically not that it's been sanctioned that they do something at graduation for students who have passed. Typically, it's a day of, or it's the day before. This is what we're going to do for so-and-so. And at that moment, in that time, to say no is borderline impossible. You'd have mutiny on your hands. So there have been kids that have walked up with pictures of, senior classes have left seats open. A variety of things have occurred like that. But our training has said, don't put them on the program. That's a bit taboo in regards to memorialization, because for some kids, that is, all right, this is my way to have one big splash at the end. I'm going to take my own life, and I'm going to end up being memorialized right on that program for everyone to see for all of time. That's what Lifelines has said. Now, is it apples to oranges? Some folks say that. The way we've perceived it is that's the guidance from the professionals, and that's the guidance we followed. But again, this is for you all to decide how you want to proceed. Just that's the context of that whole conversation.
And just for the timeline, that was April 2019, looking up the policy here. And a piece of it reads, names read at the graduation ceremony will include students who have met the requirements for an Amery High School diploma and are physically in attendance for the ceremony.
And what policy is that? That's the death of students?
Yeah, 459, death of student or staff member.
And I feel if we're going to change this policy, then we have to reevaluate that policy, because that's the language in that policy.
345 is also a policy that speaks to graduation, so all three probably get tied in.
I don't think you can change this policy and then it be counterindicative of what that policy says.
Well, what Brad just read, it would be diametrically opposed.
Then that's my concern, I guess.
It would be.
Yeah, so we probably need to look at both policies next month.
Well, the one thing that I guess I was thinking about this and that, and I thought, we haven't heard from parents of graduating students. It'd be nice if, we got some feedback from parents in the community that are having a student graduate, and how would they feel if someone hadn't earned the diploma? Maybe it's ambiguous to them, or maybe they have an opinion about it, but we haven't heard that side from anyone.
I guess I did hear last year, we did have a student who did not meet the criteria for a Amery High School diploma, but did meet criteria for the state. So they did earn a diploma, but they were not allowed to participate in graduation. And it made its way on social media last year. And they felt very wronged, and very upset. And, they didn't come to speak at a board meeting, obviously, it was just something that I saw on social media. But those are, I mean, I guess, if that was my kid and that happened, and I was that person, I would think like, well, why are they changing this now just for a foreign exchange student or a couple of foreign exchange students when my kid was here his whole time and they didn't get to graduate or things like that. And I realize, I mean, it's, you can speak on your child's behalf, or the child certainly could have come, maybe this would have been a different story, we would have looked at something different sooner, but I don't see how changing a whole graduation policy, I guess to me, it sounds like, it's kind of the culmination of that you've earned that diploma, and if you didn't earn the diploma, but you're still allowed to participate in graduation, it's the soccer trophy, if you will, for everybody. Everybody gets a trophy, kind of a thing.
Participation award.
The participation award, that everybody, that
I mean,
doesn't give anybody something to look forward to.
I mean, to me, the graduation ceremony would be, I mean, it's a celebration of achievement, I would say, for completing the requirements at Amery School. I certainly, I understand about the foreign exchange students, but at the same time, I think if we change this, maybe we want to look at the wording for deceased students. I think those are some pretty tough conversations for some people. If you've been impacted by that, I think we need to be aware of their thoughts and opinions.
Well, I was the one on the other end of the phone. They feel very strongly about it when it occurred. It might be a distant memory now, but it was at the time strongly felt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then that's partly why we, Justin, my husband, and Clem both said, if it seems unfair to allow the foreign exchange students to participate when they haven't met these requirements, then maybe the policy on foreign exchange students is make some requirements for them, so that it doesn't just seem like, well, they automatically get to participate, but that they have some requirements while they're here as a senior to meet in order to then be allowed to participate. Those requirements would look different because they don't have the opportunity to accumulate all of the credits. Again, the case could be made to try to look at their transcripts and see if they've met those requirements, because most of them probably have met a lot of those requirements. They've taken English, granted it might have looked different than our English, but they've taken English for years, they're here living in a foreign country and speaking it. They've taken math and sciences and, social studies credits and things like that. But anyway, even if that's not what the requirement is, if there is some requirements for what they need to do while they're here participating, so that they are then allowed to participate in graduation, then that.
So I can bring back 353 with additional language based on the conversation that's just occurred, a couple of different suggestions. It won't flow as in this one. It'll be 3 or 4 different options, and bring back 459 as well, because clearly that intersects with what we're talking about here.
If there's another district that has it, I mean, again, if 75 to 85% of the
Right.
districts.
Why
don't have
reinvent
to
the wheel?
reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, I'm with you, Joe.
Again, I think this is a great thing for our foreign exchange students to have this opportunity of inclusion and participating in graduation. And I am one of those people who think it's apples and oranges. So I would really like to see us, of course, follow our own policy, and that it doesn't, take away from another policy that we have.
Or contradict.
But yeah, let's look at the 85% of other districts who already have it and see what they're using.
I'm not above grabbing it from someone else if someone's done it better than us. That's great. I'll see what I can find. I'm sure it won't be hard to find. Sorry.
The other 2 students have made no indication that they would like to participate?
According to my last conversation with Josh, which was Thursday or Friday, no, they have not, to my
Okay,
knowledge,
all right.
to his knowledge. And since you brought up the high school, Josh, where they sit on this issue, their final statement to me was whatever the board directs us to do is what we'll do. They're not going to argue that point.
Now, do we need to bring up that the foreign exchange students have been told already now this year that they will be allowed to participate in
Yes, the
graduation?
foreign exchange students, according to policy 345, it says in there at the end, it gives the district administrator and/or his designee the opportunity to determine who has and has not met the criteria to graduate. And I simply entered into an executive decision, if you will, met with People Services team and said, we're going to have folks graduate that are in the senior class that are foreign exchange students. And the whole purpose in doing so was really twofold. So they can proceed forward, and we as a board can proceed forward, because that issue would become a very big sticking point. I'm pleased with this conversation, but it hasn't gone as swimmingly in the past.
Right.
So that's why I made that decision.
And whatever happens, I would guess if we approve or deny or change or whatever in April, it doesn't necessarily have to take effect the day that we approve it. I mean, you can tell that to take effect next school year.
But for the kids that are in senior, that are foreign exchange students in senior class right now, they will be participating. That is the word that's been given
They've
to them.
already been told that.
That is
As
correct.
far as their interest, I mean, I've talked with them and they, you know, I helped them order their cap and gown and they were very.
I haven't interacted with them, but I know Josh has.
Well, and I think, Aaron, to your point that you said, I helped him order their cap and gown, but I guess I don't see a reason, this is strictly talking about the graduation ceremony at this point, but I don't see a reason why, even if they weren't allowed to participate in a graduation ceremony, that they couldn't participate in all of the events leading up to graduation, just excluding the ceremony. So ordering that cap and gown and things like that, they would do with the rest of the senior class. And in my mind, I think they could do the senior walk and the, through the buildings and the senior trip.
They
and the
presently
senior
do all of
breakfast,
that.
And they do the senior, the senior trip and all of those things. So, and then they do the senior awards night. So, and they're getting recognized at the senior awards night. So,
I will bring back the policies that I referenced next month.
And if you would like to hear from, as a board, if you'd like to hear from parents or teachers or the other foreign exchange students, we certainly can ask for that feedback and I can get that word out. I know there are a lot of people that do feel strongly about this and have an opinion, they just maybe haven't.
Well, we've heard that side, and I'm just like, is there somebody else out there? You made a comment, you talked to another district and they allow participants in graduation that are credit short.
Yep, he really sees it
Why
as
would
more
they
of a.
do that?
He sees it more of a celebration of the senior class and as the class moving on. And so if they're like, half credit short or credit short, then they have a plan in place for them to get that credit, but they kind of really feel like it's a celebration of the senior class, they're moving on, whether that is, to whatever thing, but they're really not.
I know that's not what we're here to do, but I can say for my 13 years that that would not sit incredibly well for someone to be deficient and then still participate.
Yeah.
We're not talking deficient students when we're talking foreign exchange.
Right.
These aren't academic issues. Some folks, they haven't made it, and they're not participating for that reason. But I'm not a high school principal anymore, but I don't know that high school
Well,
people
that's what-
services would
that's
be
what I
excited
just-
about that.
Yeah. And the only
But I know that's not what you're proposing to do here.
well, even at the university, I mean, you apply for graduation at a university when if you've completed a 4-year degree, at least, I guess I did in Wisconsin, so you have to apply and they have to make sure that all of your requirements have been met to be able to participate in graduation.
Some of the very hardest phone calls I've ever made in my life I had an old mentor named Bob Larson from my years ago, and I taught the take down the tent call. As in, I'm calling to let you know that your son or daughter didn't make graduation criteria, they won't be participating. Those aren't always very fun calls, and it's thankfully not very many, because folks get there generally.
And that's my only comment there was, are we picking and choosing now who can participate in this event? And I just don't want to open up that can of worms where somebody's going to come to the board meeting next time and say,
But you let.
you let them participate. My student has, a half credit. So is that something that we need to address here? And
Well, it's
Change
addressed
two?
in policy 345,
Right.
stating that the high school principal would determine the criteria necessary, And I would imagine Josh's assessment of the situation is you're a credit short in English or whatever it is. You didn't make it. And it isn't news. These
Right.
kids know generally they're credit deficient pretty
Right.
early on.
And the staff, usually the high school staff is working with them multiple times,
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to help them to get
Yes.
the credits that they need.
I mean, I can vividly remember a student who failed English 12 4 consecutive terms and finally passed it in term 4. I'm like, wow, that's pretty amazing that you did that, but congratulations.
Coming in at the end.
We made her.
All right. Any other comments? Well, we'll see it next month with some options.
shall.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we'll go with the agenda preparation.
Yes, you'll see a little bit more red on this page. The black obviously is the existing policy for 171.2, agenda preparation and dissemination. It isn't incredibly lengthy, so I'll just read it to you. The district administrator shall prepare an agenda for each meeting. Any board member may add an item to a meeting agenda. Then there's a crossed out portion. The district administrator shall send the final board meeting agenda and related documentation to all the members of the board in advance of a scheduled board meeting. The agenda shall indicate the date, time, and location of the meeting, and it shall be available electronically to all board members and in paper format to all board members. Special board meeting agenda preparation and dissemination shall be conducted in accordance with Wisconsin state statute that, in essence, make reference to open records law. Or open meetings law. The board shall make decisions related to only those subject matters listed on the agenda. And then lastly, other business items deemed emergency or having extenuating circumstances must be provided and must be noticed in accordance with Wisconsin state statutes. So in essence, in short form, if you have an agenda item you want on the agenda, you simply let me know and we put it on the agenda and there it is.
I guess my question to this is, how many times can a certain item be revisited on an agenda?
Well, by this proposal, infinite. I mean, you could name your topic every agenda forever if you wanted.
I would assume if there was board action, it would be a motion to reconsider, which you could only make that motion if you were on the prevailing side. You can't then bring about that action again and again if the vote didn't go the way you'd hoped by parliamentary law. But if it's just for informational items, or, I mean, I guess we could, I guess what is the board's appetite for having the same conversation over and over again? How do we figure that out before we just add items to the agenda?
Give me an example.
Something that would be on the agenda
Over and over
repeatedly. Book challenges and book grading systems. I could see that coming up a lot. It's a hot button.
Or any policy, really, I mean, for that matter, any policy, like how many times do we need to revisit it? How many times can we revisit it?
So do you have a suggestion?
No, that's my question. So by this policy, it just says that if you're asking for it to be on the agenda, it goes on the agenda.
Well, I mean, I think partly it's due to the fact that we can only discuss things that are on the agenda, and so if things don't get on the agenda, we can't even make a comment about them, or we can't even, and it doesn't always necessarily need to be an action item or a long discussion, but, that's why Joe signed up for community comments last month, was so that he could make a comment, but it was about something that was not on the agenda. So, I see the flip side of that as far as, being able to put something on the agenda so that you can say something as a board member without having to sign up for community comments.
Yeah, well, I think that's a whole nother
Yeah.
conversation, but, I guess I'm asking then, how many times how does that look? Do we visit it over and over and over again?
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I guess, if you have a suggestion of how that could be worded,
Right now.
You could put a clause in there stating, after, repeated attempts. I wouldn't want to name a number because then you got to tally it in the district office. like in a general sense, to say something along the lines of if repeated requests are made, at that point, it could be denied. I mean, if this is the 7th time we're talking about something, that seems like ad nauseum, that would not be beneficial. But a general statement.
But how come people aren't coming here every single month and talking about book requests or whatever you're saying?
I can't speak to that. I'm just
All
using that
I'm
as an
saying is I think
example.
it's gonna be roughly the same as up here.
Yeah, maybe.
And again, what I did last week was wrong. I didn't feel it was the right path to have to go and ask for my 5-minute, at public comment. I wanted to provide some communication up here. I would have loved to have had that, but again, it's like, it just felt horrible that I had to go and sign up for a public comment sheet. But as an elected official of the community, and I really do believe this is a democratic process in which I listen to people. I don't know how many people came up to me and talked to me about the foreign exchange student. I mean, but I'm around this community every week. And I would love to be able to communicate that without having to say, well, if it's not gonna be on the agenda because Sean doesn't want it on there and Keith's not gonna approve it, well, then I'm really silenced. And there's gotta be a different way for this.
Well, this draft would allow for that.
But this draft also allows for any item,
That is correct.
so you can put anything on the agenda. I mean, it doesn't even say it has to be school-related.
That is correct.
Well, maybe we need to look at some other school districts' policies.
Well, that's
or-
why it's first reading.
Yep,
It's helpful to have that conversation, so
I
you know
just
what it
see
should
that
look
as
for second
being,
reading.
okay, we
Maybe.
need to shore something up
Yeah,
there
maybe there's
because.
some-
I think
things-
I think it's an implicit that we would want it
Yeah.
to be about something the board actually can weigh in on.
Yeah.
If they're concerned about the price of
Yeah, I
milk,
mean,
that's probably not gonna be
Do
helpful.
we need to add something to the effect of school-related business?
Sure.
I'm-
Well, that's
Or,
the
I mean,
essence of what an agenda
I would
topic
hope,
is.
I would hope that would be obvious, but
Sure.
Or do we create a vote on the agenda? So the preliminary agenda comes out, have to have at least 3 members approve the items on the agenda?
But you'd have to have a meeting to have a vote.
Yeah.
I know,
In that, you'd have to be physically having a meeting.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
So we're creating another meeting, which some school districts do that.
Sure, they do.
They meet briefly just to,
Well, that's the next item on the agenda.
yeah, disseminate that.
So Sean, I do a meeting every month where I work for a police committee meeting. And I always have on the agenda itself, and this is on every one I have, it's other items within the scope and powers and responsibilities exercised by the committee under law and ordinance. And it gives an opportunity for people to bring up
Yep.
these topics.
Which again is the next item on the agenda. That's, what you read there is broad enough yet specific enough to be sufficient. It doesn't cut the path off, but it narrows it just to police matters, or in this case, school matters.
And then in that case, then something like what would have happened last month could have been totally stated in that realm instead of
I think that's a
having
good
to
idea.
speak in community comments.
And Aaron would have had an opportunity to speak, and.
That's
like,
probably a
again,
good-
that's-
It's probably a good change.
But I think, even the idea of being able to put something on on an agenda, and to be able to make that suggestion, or not just a suggestion, but actually get it on the agenda if a board member wants something on the agenda. Like last month, maybe you just wanted to make a comment and it didn't necessarily need to have another agenda item. But, with the foreign exchange policy, I wanted that to be on the agenda. And, last month I was told, we'll put it on the agenda in June. Well, it doesn't help. I'm not going to be on the board in June.
Well, you didn't know that at the time, though.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
So the policy as written simply needs to have a little bit of guardrails in regards to it being school-related stuff. And it gives the opportunity for a board member to put an item on the agenda. And I will add a clause of some sort. If it's a repeated request, then we certainly need to have more conversation about that. But I agree with you, Joe. I don't think someone's gonna come and do the 7 months in a row. That would, getting to the point of craziness. I wouldn't think that would happen. They could, but I don't think so.
But I like what you read, I think that would be,
Yeah, could you send me that? That would be helpful. That was good language. It's broad, but yet specific enough.
Anything else? All right. We'll go on to our listening sessions.
Alrighty. Well, what you see on the screen, this is simply about a proposal in regards to the dates. The dates on the right are set board meeting dates. What this in essence would be, it would be an opportunity for folks that have an item they wanted to bring to the board. In the case of April, they wouldn't need to wait till April 17th. On April 5th, they could show up and share whatever they wanted to share. And you, at that point in time, can say, yeah, that's a good point. Let's get that on the agenda. The purpose of the timeline is Becky's prepares the board meeting agenda. She has to get it into the free press the Friday, not before the immediate Monday, but the next Monday, so it gets in the paper as an agenda printed in the paper, because we have to by law. So for the case of April 5th, for instance, we have to submit the agenda by April 7th. And then it runs in the paper the following Tuesday, and then it's on the agenda for the 17th. If you move that to April 12th, then you don't have enough time to get it on the April agenda. So it's a listening session. I wouldn't bring an agenda. It would simply be you, me, here, whoever wants to bring a topic. Or if you wanted me to create something to have as a presentation that would generate interest, this is simply, if this is the product of folks sharing with me, we need to have another forum by which to speak to the board other than 5 minutes of community comments and questions. That's the notion of what you see here as a listening session. What that looks like, I don't know that I fully know right here and now.
yeah, so when I went to the convention in January, I attended a session on, what was it called? Combating disinformation. That wasn't quite exactly the term, but it was dealing with misinformation and trying to figure out how to, get information to the public and listen to what they had to say. So this is part of the conversation that Sean and I had
Yes.
about how some school districts have a listening session, and that's one thing. This school district that presented, they actually have something more like a presentation where, they're presenting on a topic and the topic is kind of posted and this is what we're gonna talk about, but it's not just like here, if we are, for example, are talking about transportation and we just hear a presentation, the community members don't have a chance to ask questions or to engage or to discuss. And this would be more of, we're gonna do a presentation on transportation, but the community members get to engage and talk and.
You could do an amalgam too. You could have a presentation you're doing, you could have it as a working session on the non-voting items. For the April 17th, on April 5th, you can talk about the informational stuff, and you can have a forum for folks to weigh in on whatever's on their mind. It doesn't have to be one of those things, it could be all of those things. If you had an hour and a half time, I would think plenty of time to do all that.
Yeah,
It's more obligation for you, it's certainly more work for me to create something, or someone else that's gonna come in and do that. I'm not shy of work, and I'm sure they're not either, if this is what you want to do. And April 5th, starting there, that's completely arbitrary. It could be May, it could be June, it could be July, it could be September. I just put April because that's the next available month. Because we're already here for this board meeting. Go back in time machine to do it for this meeting.
So, yeah, I feel like, this is just a informational item and, we're not deciding on it tonight, so I don't know that we could have things in place by April 5th. And we still, I feel like, need to figure out what that listening session is going to look like. This other school district had a list of topics that they kind of would normally run through as far as discussion and sharing with the community, but.
Hudson does 2 meetings. They do a working meeting and a meeting where you do all your votes, and the regular meeting gets incredibly short.
Right. their voting meeting.
Right, the
Because they've
regular
already
meeting
had all
becomes
their
just your
discussion.
action items. Your working session is all your informational stuff. Granted, you don't really come out ahead because you're still doing two meetings, but,
Right.
true.
Yeah. Would be nice, if we had these dates, and do like our committees, maybe rotate 2 at a meeting. But I really wouldn't want to do it unless I had somebody signed up for it. I mean, if you come here and you're sitting here and nobody shows up, it's, everybody's time has got some value, so I don't know how you'd get it out there that if somebody wants to come to the May 3rd, that they have a sign up on the website or something so that, okay, we've got some people coming, so we want to be here.
I agree, this was talked about before, and we had concerns of, one, obviously just maintaining integrity with the meetings, and then, two, I've talked to past board members that, they actually did some of these, when they were building the middle school, and then for a while, people came because it was talking about the referendum, and so those were like kind of what we did with our community meetings and the listening
Yep.
sessions there.
Yep.
And then after that was all decided and the referendum went through, then people quit coming, and then so they spent 3 or 4 months actually just sitting and doing nothing, and then they had to cancel them, and then that isn't really a great look either when you have to cancel them, so I'd like to see how it's gonna look or be guaranteed that people are wanting to come.
Go ahead, Tom.
When I first started here, they had these meetings, there was 2 meetings a month, similar to this. They called them a working meeting, where people could come in and open. I believe that you had to, if someone wanted to come in and there wasn't anything on it, they would cancel them, I believe. But I think that they had a date ahead of time, like a couple days beforehand. If you weren't signed up at that time, then that would be, so then you're not like finding out an hour before that you're not gonna come.
Right, and especially now where they're being taped, and so somebody has to come in and set up the room and
Yeah.
all
Well,
of
I'm
those
entirely
things.
in favor of folks having opportunities to weigh in outside of those 5 minutes of community comments.
Yeah.
I mean, there's logistics certainly at play here, and this wasn't mine. Others have brought this to me, and Erin and I had a conversation from what she saw down in Milwaukee. It's not inherently a bad idea by any means, but I wouldn't want you to have to sit here for an hour and a half in an empty room just hanging out. I mean, that doesn't seem very productive. We all have valuable time.
Again, it kind of just depends on how you set this up too, because if you're gonna go through, for example, your informational items, then you have a lot of something to talk about.
Sure.
And you could say, that there's a listening session at the beginning, and if there's nobody here, then you start working through your
Right.
informational items. And if you don't get through them all because you had a longer discussion at the beginning, then they just go to the regular agenda.
You'd have to have a pretty good topic for folks to sign up and show up. And they're not coming for ordinary stuff. And not even referendum would get people in the room probably. And that's as big a ticket as we got going on around here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe folks would come.
And that's what I'm saying, if we have only 2 board members and they bring up things that aren't on the agenda, aren't, whatever, you can listen to them and respond to them. But if you have 3, then if it isn't here, you really shouldn't be talking about it, because now you've got a quorum.
But
And,
maybe that makes a good, like, it would be a rotation then. You could
Right.
have 1 or 2 or
Yep.
whatever, just to have a rotation, and so then all 5 board members didn't have to commit.
It's also how you
Twice
look
a
at
month.
it. If it's truly a listening session, it's more for you to hear from them than
Right.
for them to hear from you.
Right.
I mean, that's what we're calling it.
Right, but as Erin has said, she wants to see interaction. And so if we have more than 2 board members,
Yep, you gotta be careful about
But I
it.
think Sean's point was that, like, instead of us preparing stuff for them, like, the onus is on the community to come to us, because if it's important to them, they'll be here,
Right.
so.
right,
Again, there's just a lot of ideas for this, and I feel like, we're talking about several different ideas, and
I think that's a good idea. I mean, I think that's good to have options,
Right,
how that's gonna
right.
look. and-
so the other thing is, well,
Because
do
if
it
you're-
on the evening of the board meeting.
So
From
the other thing
4:30
is,
to
like, if you're
board
actually gonna
meeting
go through
6.
the information items, you need everybody here. I mean, it would be a meeting, and it would be a working meeting, and you would go through the informational items, especially if you, and like I said, if you didn't get to them all, then they would just move to the
What, I guess,
regular
what,
meeting.
what items are we gonna cover at a listening session that we don't covered at our regular meeting? Other than it gives people maybe a chance to talk longer than 5 minutes.
And to have a dialogue, to ask questions and get
Well, it would be
answers.
whatever they've come up with for an item that they find as a priority.
But again, I almost feel like
Right.
it should be everyone here, because if they're going to ask questions and they're going to get answers and they're gonna have dialogue, if only 2 board members are here, then the other ones have missed out on that whole conversation, and then you're trying to fill them in later, well, this is what they said, and this is what we responded, and, you know,
It's best if nearly all or all of you are here, I believe.
right.
President, I just want, I don't know about the 4:30.
Well, I don't know, I'm just scattering it out
Just saying,
there.
I do have to work.
So do I.
And-
Yeah, that might be hard.
Well, I guess
Well-
that that's kind of the point,
Right.
is that we all have to work, and
Yep, yep,
for
and
somebody
I'm
who
just
works
like-
nights or every day, who doesn't have a day off, this
But
is
this adds a whole
another,
nother night.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, if.
And you have kids?
If you wanna throw any of these at me, if it could be pushed to 6:30, at least I could get here and not have to show up in a uniform.
This is all a draft.
I'm surprised, Aaron, you want this on Wednesdays.
No, I created
I
this.
Yeah. So
No.
there that day is.
I-
I'm leaving the board, so.
when I
it's up
created-
to
But I know,
future
we don't-
people.
When I
Wednesdays are-
created
I
this,
know.
if I knew that Aaron was on the board, I wouldn't have picked
yeah,
Wednesdays.
but I guess
I have a
Wednesday is
church
obviously
commitment.
free
Wouldn't
people
work.
that are in church and don't have sports and things like that, but.
That's why I picked Wednesdays, because you got a tremendous amount of conflicts on Tuesdays and Thursdays and
Right.
certain times of the year,
Fridays.
Mondays and Fridays as well.
Mondays.
In this spring, every day of the week, probably.
Right, because now it's all gonna be makeup stuff this spring
Yes.
and probably well into summer.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Is this where staff would have an opportunity to come speak with us directly?
Absolutely.
So, you know, I guess my 2 cents is, if you're gonna add another night and add another meeting, that it would be the whole board here. And that you would, you know, have some time for listening. And again, the idea of even doing a presentation on a certain topic and publishing that topic beforehand, we're gonna do a presentation on, you know, whatever it is. And then there will be this listening and engaging on that topic, and then going through informational items if time allows. That would be, I guess, my suggestion.
So what I hear
So
from
maybe-
you, the 5 of you, in theory, you're not opposed to the idea. We need to figure out exactly what this would look like, and if we're going to start it, April 5th is probably a little early to start it. And 6:30 would be a more convenient time. That's to summarize what I've heard thus far. So I need to go back to the drawing board, come back up with a proposal for you, that what would that evening look like? So it would be beneficial for you and the participant who showed up from the community. And if we can't come up with how that would be meaningful, then why would we do it?
Right, and I
Yeah.
can, you know, give you a few more notes from the school district. You probably remember the name because you recognized it. It was a
I did when you
Green Bay.
first mentioned it.
Yeah.
Well, Hudson, again, does this kind of a model, and I'm sure others do as well. It's a bigger district thing typically.
And was the thought, all board members, yourself?
The 6 of
and
us.
Administrative staff as well?
Unless they're presenting, I wouldn't require them to be here. But if we're
Okay.
presenting on the new English language arts reading series, I would think that Paula and Jessica would be the best people to do that. If you want me to do it, I'll get my way through it, but not as well as you guys.
So they would have to prepare something
Yeah.
for the information item and then come back and then do it again for the regular board meeting.
I would think we would have it there. I don't know that we need to have it on the regular board meeting as well.
If it's an
Unless
action
I
item,
would-
we certainly would.
If it's an action item, you would prove that as you have in the past, but
But again, that's why if you've already heard it as a board, then you can just vote on it, and it takes like, you know, it takes a minute, because you
Right, but I'm saying it's another night for them to have to do it again.
I think you do it at the listening session on that evening as an informational item, and then they would be here again at the regular board meeting, and then you would vote yes or no.
What does that mean? So they'd have to do it twice.
Not the full presentation, but the topic. Yes,
They're
it
still
takes-
dedicating to.
Yes, it
That's
takes
another
more,
meeting.
it takes
As with
more
the
time.
board,
It is
yeah.
absolutely true. That is true.
Yeah.
But we would.
And I
require
guess
them
as we're
to-
going into the certified staff compensation benefits handbooks, is that going to require additional language then for
If certified staff are here,
more is
there may
expected
be, a
of?
there may be a compensation item, or we haven't had that conversation. I haven't even thought about that until you just said it. But for administrative staff, they get they're already obligated to be here. It's part of their contract, so that wouldn't be an issue.
But it's part of their contract just to be at a board meeting, correct?
Yes, night meetings is what it's called.
Okay. And it's not specified what or how many? Okay.
And again, we wouldn't want to require them to be at every
No.
listening session or whatever we call it, but if it was one that
Sure.
specifically pertained to them.
If it's a hot button, it's a big ticket, it's a new thing, sure. So I will do some work and come back? Yes?
Because poor Mr. Meyer, he could be here 20 nights to talk about the school farm. And he ain't got 20 nights to give.
Well, you got lots to talk about.
Yeah.
I will bring back I'll do some work and come back, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Next, we have our April 6th, CISA 11.
This is just informational. The deadline is approaching. The 24th of March is the deadline to register any administrator or board member to attend the CISA workshop. It's a collaborative effort between CISA and Mike Berry from Wisconsin Association of School Boards. He is their finance guy and then some. So presently, Shar has signed up to attend. I will be in attendance, and there'll be school board members from other neighboring districts as well. It's come and have some dinner and learn about school finance. And what could be more exciting than that?
I can't think of
The
any other.
equalization aid form.
Equalization aid
That's
formula.
for it.
If he covers that, we'll all be doing
Just couldn't
it.
think of a better way to.
We better have good
spend
desserts
the
if he's gonna do that.
Yeah.
So if you are interested, simply let me know. March 24th is the deadline.
Okay. All right. Next, we'll go to the handbook readings.
Okay. There are a variety of documents. Please note there are two colors here. There's a yellow color and a blue color. Yellow are the items that we're going to address here this evening. The blue is items that we're going to address. We're seeking to schedule a meeting with the board the second week of April. Between this meeting and the meeting in April, there's another already scheduled meeting with the certified staff, which is approximately 18 to 20 certified staff members from across the district. And the two items on that agenda are the two items you see in blue this evening, which is PTO, which is paid time off in lieu of sick days, emergency days, and personal days. And the other item is how do we come up with the best way to approach remote instruction, because we haven't done remote instruction until now. And we've done a lot of it, unfortunately, with the winter we've had. So those two blue items we're going to talk about in April, but we're going to talk about them I'm going to talk with them, with the certified staff at the end of March. So let's talk about the yellow items. The first two items are just simple date push forward, 23-24. The salary column that you see highlighted in yellow, those are the present salary amounts for certified staff. Nothing has changed on this page other than some of it being yellow. Our hope is to move to we had a plan that we established 2 years ago, a 3-year plan of growth, which you've seen a couple of times. The hope is to push forward, move forward to that 3rd year of growth. What holds that up is as follows. We don't know the state of the budget from the state of Wisconsin, so we don't know our budget because we don't know what they're going to allocate towards education. So we can't make any movement until we know that better. The certified staff know that's not going to get done before April. That might be September. We don't know. So if we did move forward in September, we would simply have to do retroactive pay. We did that many years in the days of negotiations. We just don't know yet. Madison's going to have to tell us when they're ready to tell us. Any questions about that first page? Okay, Becky will find the next.
I guess,
Oh, sorry.
my question is just, how do we determine how do we determine how much this pay scale will move up?
Well, we have to determine it based on what the budget will allow. The rate of growth from year 2 to year 3, if you move the numbers you see, which is year 2 to the year 3 numbers, is actually in technicality, if you just took the amounts and added them, is 2.9%. So call it 3% is what the number I've been playing with. You could follow the state of Wisconsin and do consumer price index. They're stating 8.2%. 8.2% would be well in excess of $1 million. I don't suggest we do that. So basically what the budget will shoulder, and again, we don't know what the budget will shoulder until we know what our equalization aid is going to be based on student pupil count. We just don't know. But the plan is to move forward in the range of 2 to 4%. That's the hope.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So there are some more yellow, moving on. There is the director of personnel, just a word change. Got to call the people what they are, I guess. Payroll dates. There is no guarantee the time of day that payroll deposit will occur at the employee's bank, other than it will happen sometime on that designated payroll date. If the employee encounters a banking issue as a result of the timing of their payroll deposit, they should contact the director of personnel for assistance. There are folks that are waiting with bated breath at 6 a.m. in the morning to see when their money's posted. It may not happen at 6. It might happen at 11 o'clock at night, but it will happen that day. And
Legally, we have until midnight to post
correct,
those funds, correct?
11:59. So it's been a point of contention for some. We don't control when that happens. That's a banking issue.
And so by them contacting the director of personnel, what kind of assistance are they gonna get if we don't?
They're going to be told sometime before 11:59 PM, your money's going to be deposited. I mean, in essence, that's the reality.
Kind of
Yeah.
seems like, I don't know, why does that sentence even need to be in there? Because
I think Twyla can work with the banks in
Oh,
certain situations.
okay.
Yeah, I think she.
Twyla's got
It
connections to
kinda
the banking
seems like
world, I
it's
guess.
just- It should just be, it'll happen that day at some point.
That's
But if
pretty
you wanna
much what it
Put that in
is.
there and she has some
Yeah.
kind of magic help, then
She has
great.
magic. Yeah. The next clause is certified staff who teach summer school will be compensated at $30 per hour. The most obvious example is summer school instruction of our kids. There's some summer school meetings and so forth, but in essence, they're compensated at $30 an hour, and we change the name of what's listed there. Health savings account, we have, the last sentence reads, a part-time employee will receive a prorated amount. So if you're not a full-time employee, you don't get the full sum of $2,400 or $1,200. Well, not if you're a full-time employee. So that's reflected all the way through this document in a variety of topics. Workers' comp, the section that you see there in that third line, the employee shall notify his/her immediate supervisor and the director of personnel, word change again, within 24 hours after the occurrence of an injury or as soon as practicable. The director of personnel will assist employee filling out the workers' comp form if necessary. It is essential that if someone is injured in the place of work, they just gotta let us know. It's simple as a sentence, I slipped and fell at recess. So Twyla can open a file and then she knows, and when we get that call later on, 6 months, when you had a back problem because of it, it's helpful if she knew, oh yeah, I remember that, okay, let's get back to that. So that's what that's about. Blue section, we're gonna cover at a later time. Retirement age moves from 56 to 55 in this proposal. This is, matches WRS. You're able to start working with WRS as a retiree at age 55, so it matches that. And then the same reflection you see a couple, 2-3 times there in the next section from 56 to 55. And then this section is a little more substantive, and I'll highlight the changes and then you can weigh in. Employees who meet the eligibility requirements, who are retiring with 100 or more of days of accrued paid time off or presently sick days, shall be credited with $130 is the suggested change. Right now, it's the current rate of subpay, which is $130. For this school year 23-24, it would be reflected as $130. So this year's rate is $130. Next year's rate would be $130. And then $100 beginning in the school year 24-25. For the next set of changes, it's half of the $130. If it's between 50 and 99 days, then it's $65 for next year. It's $65 right now. And then beginning in 24-25, it's $50. So that's the big change. Now, the reasoning behind this change is we are a bit disproportionate in regards to the rest of the CISA in regards to our payouts. The second highest in the entire CISA is $100 for payout, and I believe their cap is like 25 days. We're on the high end in regards to this, and it's a financial, it's a difficult thing to shoulder in the budget to pay out that grand sum of money. The other line of logic is the reason we're keeping it the same for next year as opposed to changing it. The deadline to declare your retirement was March 1st, and it seems a bit unfair to folks to change the game and them have nothing to be able to do about it. So if we waited another year to change it, then they can make a decision. I know if I retire next year by March 1st, it's going to be 130 times each of my days. If I wait another year, it's gonna be 100 times each one of my days. So then they can, in full disclosure, know what to be able to do. So I'll turn it over to you if you have any questions or comments on that section.
So you said the other schools are $100?
Most are far less than 100. Most are in the 50, 60, 70 range
For a full day, huh?
for a sick day. And most, probably 2/3 have a cap of some sort, where it's 50 days or 25 days, 100 days, depending on the district.
And
We
don't
are,
have a cap.
what was that?
We don't have a cap.
We do not have a cap, it's unlimited. So if you have 275 days, right now you're getting 275 times 130, whatever that equals, paid out to you in retirement, to your HRA, which is in essence what you use to pay for your health insurance.
Well, obviously, it's hard to change it on people when they've been expecting it to,
Nope.
Be the current rate of sub pay. But I hear valid reasoning for changing it, but I feel bad for people that have been expecting that.
There's another line of logic. There's approximately 15 to 20 folks that are left retiring out on the older system. That older system, I don't want to call people old, but it's the system that's older in date, is to just let that ride until they've all retired out in the next 5, 6, 7 years. They will all have retired out, and then this part of the handbook just goes away because they don't exist anymore. We can also do that. And if that's what you wanted to do, we certainly can. This is but a first reading. So that's another school of thought. I don't know the exact numbers, but about 15, 18, 20.
15 to 20 people.
Somewhere around there, total staff.
And they're on the old system because it already was changed?
Nope, they're on the older system, and in 2004, folks had the opportunity to remain on the older system or choose to go to the newer system, and anyone that's been hired since then has just been on the newer system. So these folks are typically folks that have been here for at least 18 years, in many cases, 25, 30, 35. Tom's smiling, apparently he's old.
Yeah, I think we talk about this every year. Do this.
It was controversial at the time in regards to making the decision, because it was a big change.
Yeah.
And what do I do, what do I do? I mean, some folks in the room are here when that all occurred.
Yeah.
And Tom's not old.
Not old enough yet.
Well, could we see the financial implication of
Yep.
keeping that system in place for,
What I'll bring to you is if you left it at current rate of sub-pay, which is 130, and I can bring to you what it would look like for $100. And I can do that by saying, we've got 17 people at 130 at this many days equals versus 17 people at this rate times would equal. I can show that to you. That's not a problem at all. It's frankly pretty easy to
And then the people
do.
that are under the new system,
That's coming up next.
okay.
So in the newer system, it's 56 to 55, and the change in number of years is 15 to 10. The reason that it's not changed to 10 in the older system is because those folks, again, have been here at minimum 18, so 15 or 10, they've met it either way. The reason we changed this, or proposing to change this to 10 is because then you can perhaps grab someone from another district who's looking to make a move here. For instance, they're in Baldwin and they want to come here and teach Name Your Subject. If they're 47 years old and they got to work 15 more in order to be vested in, they probably, I'm not planning to work till 62, but 57 I could do. That's why the change to 10 years. It doesn't cost the district anything to move from 15 to 10. It perhaps could recruit someone in that's a veteran teacher that, and right now we'll recruit anyone we can get based on our teacher shortage. So that's the notion of 10. And you'll see 10 and 55 throughout this document, and then there's a 5-year for a clause in essence for a staff member who passes while they're still employed here. And after they've been here for 5 years, they're vested in and they are able to have their retirement benefit, your HR retirement benefit. That's a policy that's 4 or 5 years in the making that happened to go with a staff person.
Yeah, I was actually contacted by somebody in the community who was wondering why it took us so long to vest our employees in. And it was right after we had our listening session. And I'm like, well, it's on the agenda for next month, so it looks like we might be
Well
changing
timed.
that, so.
Well timed.
So community members have noticed as well,
Yeah.
looking at applying, so I think it's a
Yep.
great move.
Anything else that we're missing? Oh, the paid time off for each. That's paid time off stuff, so we'll hold off on that until the next time. And then there's a bunch of blue, and then a little further on, there's some yellow. Down here, family medical, oops, sorry, it says in the part that's struck out that we make up one day and we don't make up one day and the rest of the days are added. That's just not what we're doing. If that was the case this year, we'd be going to school on the 4th of July, and we might still, I don't know. The Family and Medical Leave Action portion says, Family and Medical Leave Act and Wisconsin Family Medical Leave Act provides certain employees with up to 12 weeks of unpaid job-protected leave per year. They also require that employee group health benefits be maintained during that leave. That's just formality based on FMLA language, and that's federal law. So we're trying to match that language. Again, got rid of the FMLA stuff because it's no longer applicable. More blue, and then I think there's one or two more. There's sub-plans. Certified staff are expected to have complete and updated sub-plans on a given day for a substitute teacher, and they need to be housed in an area where the sub can find them. It's very frustrating for a sub and equally frustrating for the supervisor to have no plans. That's hard at best. So that's the notion for that clause. The workday appointments, this is new to the handbook. It says, it is the expectation of the school district of Amery that employees will make every effort to schedule appointments outside of their workday. If it is necessary to schedule an appointment during the workday, the employee is required to use paid time off for their absence. An employee may arrive late up to 8:30 a.m. or leave at 2:45 p.m. for a scheduled appointment with prior approval from their building principal or supervisor. Employees who arrive after 8:30 or leave before 2:45 will have to use a half-day, sick day, potentially PTO if that's the change that's made here. We understand sometimes you gotta get to name your place by 3:15, and if I left at 2:45, it can happen. We wanna work with people, but we also need people here in front of kids. So that's the nature of that. And I think that might be the last of the last.
That was it.
On that. Feedback, comments, questions?
We'll wait for some more data from you on the,
I guess I just procedurally, how do you call in a sub and how do you pay them and like all that's like again?
Well, if you have a declared absence as a sub, for instance, we've already had a couple of folks turn in for state track, which is now, it's on June 2nd, and now we have school on that day. So they fill out a sub form, turn that into their building principal or a supervisor. They sign it, secretary grabs it, it's disseminated 3 ways. One's kept in that office, one's given to the employee, and one's sent to Pam Robarge. Pam then schedules you in a sub. Earlier is better for Pam. She's got you on the list, you're gonna get covered. Now, if you all of a sudden get sick the morning of or the night before, you simply need to send Pam an email or give her a call, and she covers you with a sub. And it's usually on first come, first serve. Pam's got a lot of working knowledge of who's available when and where can they work, where do they want to work. And she plugs you in and we continue pressing on. We've got some standbys that we have sub all the time, whether that be long-term folks are in certain spots, typically for maternity leaves. It's a matter of Pam just covering those bases. And the system works well. Some have gone to automated systems. We're starting to talk about that. That automated system is great in regards to logistics of it, but you lose that personal communication thing. Like, the system's got to know that certain folks aren't available to sub between January and April because they're snowbirds. Pam just knows, because they've done this forever.
Yep.
And that's the benefit of having a Pam, though we won't always have Pam.
boy. She'll call at 4:30 in the morning or on Sunday night.
Pam will take care of
Yes.
business.
She
She's
does.
awesome.
Yes, she does a wonderful job.
So that's in general form how it works, Joe. I mean, there is obviously other details and perhaps the building principals can add to it. That's just my general description of it.
Yeah, and if the call comes in, the paperwork still gets done, it's just when they return, but.
Yeah.
So it's all tabulated and coded.
Early is better.
And then they just have a time card, I think, that they, it's been a long time since I did that. It was just a paper they filled out, but I'm sure it's all, is it electronic now?
Pam's got it all documented, and
Yeah,
there's
so
this,
Pam does all that, and then it's just run through payroll. And then they just get their daily sub rate minus their withholding.
there's constant communication between the building secretaries, Pam, Twyla, and Becky, so it all gets tracked.
Ought to see Pam, talk to Pam.
I know. I was
Pam
thinking,
seems to be the key.
I was just thinking how many years ago it's been since I substitute taught here, and Pam was the lady then. And I was thinking, that's been a lot of years now. Sorry, Pam, you're not old. Just been here a long time.
Okay, any other comments before we move on to the next items? Okay,
We'll go to our support staff.
Becky's on it. No pressure.
I know.
Support staff, the yellow stuff and the blue stuff. Yellow again, our hope is to move folks forward. The hope is to move them forward, the support staff that is, by the same rate of pay as the certified staff, 3%. So for instance, if you were a level 2 paraeducator and you're at $15, the hope would be that we would move you forward and you'd be at $15.45. That's the hope. But we don't know what's going to happen with state finance, so we don't know what's happening with our budget. We are not presently competitive in the area of support staff, and that is a problem, because you can get work elsewhere, and we're losing out on those folks. Now, we could also price ourselves right out of the market if we went too aggressive, but we got to be more competitive than we are. And remember, we moved this forward last year. We're seeking to move forward again. There's actually a proposal that Becky and Twyla and I are working on, which is a dramatic departure in regards to the number of levels here that we might actually run past you when we see you next. But that's a work in progress right now. We're hoping to move forward, is the long story short.
So is the hope to really move forward more than the 3%?
I would like to move the support staff forward the same as the certified staff, percentage-wise. And if we need to move forward again, we will do that. What we're looking at doing, and Jessica Smith sits on this committee with me and meeting with not only certified staff, but also support staff, to create a 3-year growth model for support staff, where we don't have one right now. We have one for certified staff, and thankfully, we've been able to follow it at least the first 2 years. That's been helpful, so at least you have a target to create another one that parallels for support staff, and then, in addition, create a 3-year growth model for certified staff, like we just had, that will perhaps be timed out on. So, to move forward. And do that in an equitable way across the job categories, and to be competitive. In essence, I've seen support staff scales from other neighboring districts. In some cases, we're competitive, in other cases, we're simply not.
Right, so I
And-
guess that's my concern is, if we're only moving approximately 3%, that's not gonna really put us
It might not.
competitively with other,
It might not. The cost comparisons that I look at are usually Baldwin, Somerset, and Osceola, because they're similarly sized districts that are geographically where we are. It's probably not realistic to look at Hudson or Prairie Farm, because those are two different ends of the spectrum. But 3% might not get it done. But you also have to remember that budget impact. If you take 3% on level 2 employee is 45 cents, 45 cents on a dollar for 2,080 hours as a price point, times however many support staff people you have. If your budget increase is 400,000 or 500,000, you might not be able to shoulder that. So you have to do it a little more incrementally. Would I like to just trash the whole thing and say we're starting at $18 an hour across the board? I mean, sure. And that's not even to mention, what do we do with mechanic and computer tech? Those two columns likely won't be there when we see it next, because neither of those are competitive wages, and we don't have any people in those categories. You're not gonna hire a mechanic at $18. I mean, that's reality. I don't work that world, but I'm thinking probably not. Or a computer tech, for that matter. So, we're not competitive, but we gotta be careful about budget too.
right? Obviously, we do, but it's just, you wanna pay people at
I'm with you, absolutely.
appropriate wage, especially in
do.
this market.
Yeah, I think we all feel that way, but if we got a bottom line to look out for, we can get a bottom line.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I think again, and like I said earlier too, to you is like, I used to be on a union and we used to do 3-year contracts. It allowed a lot of, cause doing this every single year brings up a whole bunch of issues
It does.
leadership wise. And, but I mean, I also get now, again, that I probably didn't understand before was you don't even know your budget right now.
We don't.
So.
It's the craziest thing.
Like, that's a pickle.
Yes.
So.
So remember the incremental changes to this, because when I first arrived in 1819, that was one of the first orders of business in the district office. The levels were 1, 2, 4, 15, and 20. So you went from year 4 to year 15. And in the paraeducator category, the total number of dollars that you move forward from year 4 to year 15 was 9 cents in 11 years. That seems like or no, it was 27 cents in 11 years. That seems like a bad idea.
Yeah.
So we added 1 through 9, and then what we did last year is we matched para, food service, custodian, and clubhouse. And then there's a demarcation there to secretary and van driver, sort of an anomaly. And now the next incremental move is to add on top of what we presently have here, and potentially eliminate mechanic and computer tech. So there's these various iterations of this to get it where it needs to be is not a fast
If you
process.
eliminated mechanic and computer tech, where do they go?
Are they just a contract?
They're just not on here, and you contract them out separately, because it's technically 3 people, 4 people. No, 3 people. You have 2 IT and you have mechanic. It's 3 people total. You need to enter into a contract with them, which is what we do now. They're just off the grid. Oh, I suppose it is, and then the assistant, yes, you're right. So they're sort of off the grid with how many there are. Paras, there's 30, 35 of them. So you'll see more of this when we meet in April for the board meeting and that other board meeting we're seeking to schedule. Bus drivers, same, we're seeking to move them forward as well. We just moved them forward dramatically last year to this year. Remember what happened in years past? Every bus driver, no matter how long you were here, made the exact same wage. So if you're here 25 years or 1 year, you're making the exact same number of dollars unless your route is significantly longer or shorter, and that didn't seem right to anybody. So this was a huge step forward, and we're looking to make another step forward. We don't have a ton of bus drivers around. We're all competing for the same people. So that's a change. And we're also going to look at longevity pay, moving that forward. So all of those are considerations that you'll have pricing on, I hope, and formal numbers on when we meet next. A director of personnel, word change. Payroll date, same deal. Don't sit at your computer waiting for it to be posted at 6 a.m. Seems like a bad use of time. Temporary summer employees need to work 5 days before and 5 days after the 4th of July to be paid. It's impossible to track. Twyla said, I don't even know why it's there. I don't know why it's there. Becky doesn't know why it's there. You probably don't know why it's there, so we crossed it off. It's a rare occasion that it has been addressed or used. Health savings account, the prorated rate is what's noted there. Workman's comp, same word changes as you saw on the certified staff. Reimbursement, compensation for training time may be provided in the form of wages or in professional development hours. That's just further clarity on the 2 sentences before that, because some folks construe, if I'm required to do training, I will be reimbursed for all of the wages that I'll read it, it'll be easier rather than backtrack and just sentence fragments. All employees who are directed to attend approved workshops or required to attend training in the field of work shall be reimbursed for attending these workshops, trainings for actual costs incurred, including wages, meals, lodging, mileage, and registration fees. So if you go to the Dells for a training on Power School, you get reimbursed for your meals, your lodging, your mileage, and your registration fees. The wages, people were thinking, well, I need to get paid for all of those hours, every hour that I'm away. That's not the intent. The intent is you won't lose wage for having gone, you're still gonna get paid. That next sentence clarifies it. Compensation for training time may be provided in the form of wages or in professional development hours, which can be cashed in for time off. So that's the notion of the change. The retirement, 56 to 55, 15 to 10. PTO days, Well, sick days will not be paid out if an employee resigns from their position or is terminated. So if you're near the end of your time and get terminated, you wouldn't be paid out. It would seem if you're not leaving the district on good terms, you probably ought not be paid out. Uniforms, this is a topic that the support staff brought to the committee, and they brought it a couple of times. Staff who work outdoors to perform their duties are eligible for up to a $100 stipend for winter attire. The request must be made in writing to their immediate supervisor and approved by their supervisor and the district administrator. There are folks that are spending a lot of time outside, but we have to be careful that this doesn't end up being 60 people, because all of Clubhouse goes outside. It's not just one person. But if you're working the day shift, you're doing snow removal all day some days. I mean, I'm here at this building and I see Cody driving all over the place scooping snow. So perhaps we could help him being properly fitted. He's not asking, but some are. And perhaps that's something we can work with them on. So, Wisconsin retirement system language, employers and employees are each required to pay 1/2. Don't lose sight of the fact that if you make, $18 an hour and you work a 40-hour week of $720, 6.55% of every one of those dollars from the employee goes into the Wisconsin retirement system, and 6.55% is paid into the Wisconsin retirement system by the employer as well. That's the law. So that's the pension that folks make reference to that educators have. The Family Medical Leave Act, change that language to mirror what the certified staff language was. Got rid of the other one because it doesn't exist anymore. And then the blue stuff is paid time off. And I think we might be getting near the end here. And that's that. So those are all of the prospective changes for both of those compensation documents. And again, the blue stuff, the conversation would occur here when we can nail down when we're going to meet and talk about that. It's too important a conversation to hurry through.
Yep.
I want to go back to the uniforms.
Go ahead.
And we did talk about this in our listening session. Staff who work outdoors to perform their duties are eligible for up to a $100 stipend for winter attire. Obviously, I'd like to see some language in there that one time per how many years?
Sure.
1 year, 2 years, something.
And does it need to be like, who work outdoors more than 50% of
Yeah.
their duties? I don't know, it feels
Yeah.
like you said, maybe there needs to be a percentage or something so that it's not just,
You can't just
probably
shovel
everybody
one
goes
sidewalk
outside
in
at some
February.
point.
Right, and we talked about that too. We didn't know how that would look of who qualifies for that and who doesn't. I guess if it's a major duty in your job description of being an outside supervisor.
Sure, I think Megan Cree from the intermediate office, she's outside all day.
Right,
I mean, literally, all day.
right.
And then,
So
how long do they have to be employed before they're eligible for said $100 stipend?
good
Because we do have
suggestions.
people come and then don't show up for
Oh.
work after a couple days and then they've gotten their $100
And they got their new boots and they're on their way.
Right.
That doesn't seem right.
I know, I know, it's laughable, but it does happen
Well,
and.
sure. We will make the necessary adjustments. Good feedback. All right.
Anything else? All right.
We should probably have to wait till winter. To work.
Yeah.
This
Get
is
hired
the
in
year for
January.
new boots.
Well, you should come buy it now because it's on sale, because all the spring stuff's coming out.
Sure.
You know?
Good call.
All right, action items, we already dealt with the bus purchase.
Yes.
So now we will start college now.
Okay, we have Start College Now, an early college credit program. If you remember the days of old, this is the old youth options program.
Yep.
Which we're gonna bring that to you as well. We still have a youth options policy. It doesn't exist anymore. That will be an easy change for you all to make. It doesn't exist. So we have a couple of applicants for ECCP and SNC. Do we have how many that were approved? Did Josh send that to you? Okay, I don't have the number, but for all those who applied for early college credit program and Start College Now, I can't provide you the names by law, but I can say those who have applied. it would be up to you to approve them. If you notice the column on the left, the column on the right, it looks a little different based on the finances of it, if you go down a little bit. The cost of course, for the first column, the cost of the course, the high school and post-secondary credit, the school district pays 75, the state pays 25, and the people pays none. Whereas on the second column, the school district pays all of that. And that's not a cost that we can negotiate, that's just the cost we have to pay. And remember, youth options, we paid 100% every single credit, every single time. So those who have applied, I'm simply here on Josh's behalf to ask that you would approve those kids to do ECCP or start college now. And if you want to wait until you actually hear the number, I can certainly bring that number and we can do it next month.
I believe we don't have really an option though, right?
We don't have an option to
They
say
have
no.
the option, we don't have the
to
option.
approve.
You know, you don't have to approve it,
No.
Right.
but then you're going to have an issue, but we have to follow the pay structure. That is reality, that's the law.
Yeah, yeah.
And I contend it's a good thing for kids if they're ready to get started on their lives. College kid, do your thing.
I really appreciate though the college credits that the kids are able to get.
Absolutely.
In the classroom, that's been increasing and it's nice for them to be able to take that college credit but
It
still
is.
be at school.
Go ahead, Joe.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve.
A second.
All right, motion to approve the college ready now, made and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no, there we go. Next, we got donations to the district.
Donations to the district. So, you know, if I created these slides, it would not be thematic in the way that you just did there. That's awesome. I feel like I'm at the elementary school all of a sudden. We have the Warrior Pump downtown. Remember, this is a Dick's Fresh Market, Doug Reinhardt brainchild from oh so long ago. Doug always calls us, 4 times a year when the quarter is up and says, we've got a donation check here from our Warrior Pump, and we want to put it in the Angel Fund. But if you've got something specifically that I can donate it to, let me know. Well, this was an example. We were able to receive this money from Dick's Fresh Market, $1,381.14. And the perfect part of this, the timing lined up right before the high school kids went to powerlifting team state. And so we donated it to them for their travel, for their lodging, and for their food. And they are powerlifters, so they probably eat. That'd be my hunch. So that was awesome that Doug was able to do that. First Lutheran Church, thank you for donation of clothing to the intermediate school for students in need. Cardinal Lass, thank you for your donation of 55 thesauruses. That was a hard one. I don't think it's the thesauruses. I think so, for 4th and 5th grade classrooms. Thank you for the $100 donation to the Intermediate School Angel Fund anonymously. Don't know who that was, but thank you. And I don't know how this one slipped past me, but a donation of Girl Scout cookies for the intermediate school staff. Perhaps it's because I've been hit up by other Girl Scouts in my life, and I've eaten plenty.
It was a good month at the intermediate school.
There's plenty of Thin Mints to go around my house. I'll
Girl
tell you
Scouts
that.
at the middle school. Cookies.
I got a complaint this weekend that Dad was eating too many of the Thin Mints. I'm like, okay, sorry. So, you'll need an action to approve those donations.
We have a motion
I'd make a motion, we accept the donations to the district with many thanks.
and second,
Second.
Char. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
It is wonderful. Every meeting,
Yep.
it just
I
comes at.
can't remember the last time we had a meeting that we didn't have donations to
Yeah.
approve.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much.
it's like, yeah, we're doing it right, I guess.
Personnel action, new employees and extracurricular contracts, Brianna Iverson, special ed para, Nikki Lanfear for para ed, paraeducator, Race Rolling, high school track assistant coach, that's a real name, we've talked about it already, Race Rolling for track. Laura Van Blaricom for paraeducator, resignations, Brittany Miller, effective end of school year for lower elementary Montessori teacher, and Emily Schindler, special education para. And you'll need action to accept these personnel items.
I'll make that motion.
Aaron, a second.
I'll second.
Joe, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. There we go. Any need to go closed?
No, sir.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Aaron and Shar. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're done.